Did you know what were the 12 of the biggest armies ever assembled? The genesis of organized military forces can be traced back to Mesopotamia, which is located in present-day Iraq nearly 5,000 years ago. Historians estimate that this early military unit consisted of several thousand well-trained soldiers, roughly equivalent in size to a modern U.S. Army brigade. Throughout human history, as long as humans have been able to sharpen sticks and stone, conflicts have arisen over vital resources like land and water, as well as other motivations. However, it wasn't until ancient times that humans began to assemble what can be considered as standing armies. Here are 13 of the largest armies in world history. 12. The Army of Ramses, with estimated active personnel of 100,000 in 1250 BC. Ramses is believed by many scholars to be the pharaoh referred to in the Exodus story of the Old Testament, the one who, according to the Hebrew Bible, sent chariot warriors to pursue Moses and the fleeing Jews. The historical Ramses certainly had a large army used to secure the borders of his empire against nomadic invaders. 11. The Persian army of Cyrus the Great, with estimated active personnel of 500,000 in 600 BC. The First Persian Empire stretched from Libya to Central Asia at its peak. It had a population of 49.5 million people. Cyrus the Great expanded his ancestral homeland in Iran into a massive empire, growing his army to 500,000 soldiers. 10. Mauryan Empire, with estimated active personnel of 630,000 in 3rd century BC. It would take about 200 years after Cyrus the Great of Persia for a second army to emerge with an estimated 500,000 soldiers. This time, it was the Mauryan Empire, founded by Chandragupta Maurya in the wake of the destruction left by Alexander the Great in India's Punjab region. The empire made up most of the subcontinent and maintained relative peace among the local kingdoms for more than a century. 9. The Roman Empire army, with estimated active personnel of 500,000 in the 1st century. Estimates vary considerably regarding the size of the Roman army at its peak, and 500,000 is considered at the upper end of the estimate range. Part of this variation is due to the way the Roman Empire classified soldiers. Local native non-Roman units could join with the imperial army, and non-citizen inhabitants of the Roman Empire could be auxiliaries, but only Roman citizens could be members of core elite legions. 8. The Tang Dynasty, with estimated active personnel of 634,000 in 9th century. China's Tang Dynasty, known for having a cosmopolitan outlook, expanded across a massive territory gained by military campaigns of the earliest rulers of the period. The first army to top 600,000 troops was built on a system known as Fubing, which included conscripting fighters to serve 1 month out of every 5 or 2 months out of every 18, based on how far they lived from the capital. However, this system could only supply the military for short campaigns, and it eventually collapsed. 7. Genghis Khan's Mongol horde, with estimated active personnel of 240,000 in the 13th century. Estimates vary widely on the size of Genghis Khan's army, with some claims of 1 million fighters. The Mongols were pastoral nomads, so the high-end estimates may be based on the size of Mongol encampments. A typical Mongol siege on a city or stronghold started with far fewer soldiers, about 3 to 5 divisions of 10,000 men, behind a line of horsemen deftly deploying their distinctive composite bows. Mongol fighting tactics included mounted couriers on the battlefront and a complex signaling system that allowed for highly flexible maneuvering, including retreating and regrouping. 6. The Ming Dynasty, with estimated active personnel of 1 million in 15th century. China's Ming Dynasty, which emerged following the harsh rule of the Mongol Yuan dynasty, had, at its height, the first million-soldier army. It was indisputably the largest armed force in the world at the time, including a massive naval force. 5. Napoleon's army, with estimated active personnel of 2.5 million in 1800 to 1815. Napoleon Bonaparte's march across Europe was enabled by conscription, allowing the Corsican conqueror to deploy an army larger than today's Chinese armed forces. The Napoleonic Wars raged for 12 years, and combat deaths from these battles were estimated to have been between 2.5 million and 3.5 million soldiers. Britain, Russia, Prussia, Austria, Spain, and Portugal each lost more than 100,000 fighters battling Napoleon's forces. 4. The German Empire, with estimated active personnel of 5.3 million in 1914 to 1918. The German Empire was at the time the strongest force in Europe during World War I, which allowed them to fight the French in the west and the Russians in the east. 3. The Soviet Union in World War II, with estimated active personnel of 11 million in 1943. By the summer of 1943, about 4 million Axis fighters, mostly Germans, were battling more than 6.7 million Russians. At its peak strength, the Soviet Union had an estimated 11 million soldiers in 1943, though some estimates put Russian troop strength as high as 13.2 million at its peak. The Soviets lost between 8 million and over 10 million soldiers, beating back the Germans and playing a crucial role in defeating the Axis. 2. The Third Reich, with estimated active personnel of 12 million in 1944. Estimates vary about the size of the Nazi forces at its peak during World War II. We know that about 4 million Axis fighters, most of whom were German, were sent by Hitler to invade Russia. The Third Reich is estimated to have had a fighting army of 12.1 million at its peak in 1944. 1. The United States Army in World War II, with estimated active personnel of 12.2 million in 1945. At the onset of World War II, the United States had a small standing army, but it would rapidly grow as it became clear the U.S. would need to get involved in the global conflict, especially following the bombing of Pearl Harbor. By 1945, the U.S. armed forces had grown to 12.2 million, which played a crucial role of ending World War II. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like and subscribe. Also, consider becoming a member of our community and get exclusive features like shoutouts, the ability to vote, and much more.